for Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Friday night. 3 minutes past the hour of 9 p.m. here in Kampala, Uganda, on the 6th of February 2026. Tonight, we will be going through the rest of our weekend preview. For those of you that were part of the morning broadcast, you know where that conversation did lead in as far as this morning was concerned, and it does continue among other football news that have come our way throughout the course of the day. For those of you that have been blessed today, we are happy for you. For those that are still searching for their blessing, or those that have been faced with misfortune throughout the course of the day, we do console with you. We do commiserate with you for those of you that have lost loved ones, but I do pray otherwise that you are doing okay. So, like the norm is, you'll allow me have our audios tested just to make sure everything checks out. Just to apologies, that's one of the tests that I do regularly, just to make sure our audios check out perfectly well before we proceed any further in our broadcast. But yeah, it does promise to be a very entertaining weekend as we head into match day 25 of the Premier League, and of course other different match days depending on the different leagues across the 5 leagues there in Europe. Meanwhile, I think this had slipped my mind. I was supposed to be following up on the game between Al Nassr and Al Ittihad over there in the Saudi Pro League, where Cristiano Ronaldo is in protest or is in an individual protest contesting the affairs or the way affairs are being run over there at his club at Al Nassr, of course, with accusations geared towards the public investment fund or the sovereign public investment fund, and then of course also the Saudi Pro League in itself, as he thinks or feels that some things have been skewed in favor of some of the other competitors there. That game is already in the 35th minute. And it's still goalless, so I'm going to try and see if I can land my sights on it here. Jesus Christ. Yes. Okay, yeah, so we'll be following the events from that game, among other things, as we go through tonight's broadcast. Okay, cancel that. Oh, come on. Yes. Okay. Oh, Jesus. One more hurdle to skip before we get it all started. But yeah, it does promise to be a very, very action-packed game. Moussa Diaby. Now, unfortunately, the events I'm following, the commentary is in Arabic, so it's not a cup of tea, I must say. It's not a cup of tea for me, Arabic. Okay. Like I said, let's begin on the African continent, where Morocco's head coach Walid Regragui has tendered in his resignation. Of course, this comes barely a month after Morocco were beaten up by Senegal by a 0-0 in the finals of the Africa Cup of Nations that were hosted by Morocco. There, he's tendered in his resignation following the loss, but by the time of the broadcast, we had yet to confirm on whether his resignation had been accepted by the Royal Moroccan Sports Federation, or Football Federation there. So we know he's a good manager. He was appointed in August 2022. That was a few months prior to the FIFA World Cup of 2022, which was played in Qatar, starting December 2022. For those of you that remember, that's when he was appointed, and he went on to make history as he guided as he guided Morocco to the semi-finals of the competition before I think they got knocked out by France, 2-0, possibly. I mean, Morocco became the first team to reach the semi-finals of the competition. As well, he himself became the first African manager to guide a team at the World Cup to that milestone. And then we know that in the recently concluded tournament, he guided his side to the AFCON final. Now, on paper or on TV, that's not bad at all. Meanwhile, Al Ittihad, under the charges of Francesco Conceição, for those of you that remember him at FC Porto and I think AC Milan, there. Wow. I can see Fabinho, the former Liverpool player, in there also in action. Anyways, so that is what is coming through from Morocco. We can only hope for the best there, but looks like Walid Regragui is ready to hang up his coaching credentials and move on. Of course, before being appointed to the Morocco national team, he had been part of Wydad Casablanca or Wydad AC and guided them to the CAF Champions League triumph, as well as the Moroccan League. That's the Botola Pro, and so he's a guy of some level of experience. Now, usually, of course, he had not managed many clubs. I think he had managed about 2 other clubs before he got the national team job. Pedri decided to type in Arabic, "Hello, big pan or big man." Hello, Pedri. How are you doing? Here, I don't know why, but your comment is appearing in Arabic. Is it my settings or something? Anyways, so yeah, that's what is happening there in Morocco with the head coach. The other day, we were telling you about the fines from CAF that have been geared towards Ismail Sarabia, of course, and the Moroccan Federation for failing to control their players and technical team for the chaos that did erupt during the course of the finals of the Africa Cup of Nations, and entirely the total fines came down to about £415,000, US dollars, while those of Senegal amounted to $715,000, for which the Senegalese Federation did acknowledge that they will be paying and they will not appeal the decision. Pedro says, "How are you? I'm all right. How are you, my brother? How has been your day?" Now, on the other part, or on the other side, okay, Jesus Christ. On the other side, what's going on? I'm writing in English. I do not know, but on my test device, your comments are appearing in Arabic, while on my broadcasting device, they are appearing in English. So I do not know what the case is as such. But anyways, so Morocco, first of all, did not agree with the fines that were handed out to Senegal because they thought, in their opinion, that they are more liable to whatever did happen in that final, that there was a culprit. Because, of course, we know they walked off the pitch. Papa Thiaw, that's the Senegal head coach, who has been suspended for 5 official CAF matches, commanded his team to nice switch up in languages. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know where that exact setting is, but in terms of language, about the live chat, but perhaps I'll check it out. Okay, now they've reverted back to normal. Okay, they've reverted back to normal. I think you started typing English after all. So, anyways, so of course, Morocco said they will be appealing that decision. They think that Senegal should be facing tougher sanctions and things like that. Of course, they too as well, Morocco have, I think, 2 of their players in Achraf Hakimi and Ismail Sarabia sanctioned, each handed a 2-match ban, whereas for Achraf Hakimi, he has a too-much ban with one suspended for a year. So that means if he commits any other grave offense within that period, then he ought to serve that ban in an official CAF match. So that is what is happening. So that's all from the Moroccan side. So, we'll have to wait and see how things go in that regard. Meanwhile, while it was CAF sat down with the disciplinary committee and arrived to a decision, in Uganda, we have the table leaders in Vipers Sports Club seeking redress in courts of law for the authorities to adjudicate their matter, in which they missed the first game of the season against Chitara in the new proposed league format, which they contested or protested and said we're not going to be party to. So whereas the rules suggest that you ought to write to the federation and the Uganda Premier League Secretariat and notify them, I think 48 hours in advance if you plan or intend to miss a game for whatever the reason is, which they did. And then the federation insisted that the game would go on as planned. So Kitara Football Club showed up, Vipers did not show up. Now, instead of the Uganda Premier League Secretariat as runners of the league, and usually with the intervention of the Federation of Ghana Football Associations, that's FUFA, intervening to come and adjudicate the matter, they decided to play sort of ping pong with Vipers. Vipers wrote multiple letters to them. They went unanswered, seeking redress on the matter. Are they going to be sanctioned? Are they going to be penalized with 6 points docked? Because usually, as part of the rules, you could be docked 6 points for missing out on the game. How is your son, Robert Jr.? I don't have any, so maybe God willing, I'll have one in the future. So, anyways, so when you look at it in that context, I mean, you can't help but wonder why, because the league started in September and we're in January. So that's September, October, November, December, January. In fact, we're in February. That's 5 months, almost 6, after that first game weekend. And yet we do not have a decision for that disputed game. What Vipers want to know, are they going to be docked 6 points? Are they going to be penalized? And if they are, will there be time for them to appeal? And yet the Federation of Ghana Football Association, because it was the only club that protested without playing, they seem to want to wait until the tail end of the season, perhaps see whether they can cause them to lose the Premier League title. I mean, that's conspiracy theory, but that is the possibility. For example, if let's say we reach at the end of the season and then suddenly Vipers, or maybe in the last 1-2 games, and then Vipers are only 3 points ahead and then they adopt 6 points, that means the second place team then wins the Premier League title, because then Vipers would have been penalized, so that there's an expectation that could happen, that could be the plot by the Federation of Ghana Football Associations. So Vipers have wanted to be proactive and get ahead of this matter and take it to court. So we will wait and see what comes out of that, in the coming days. Anyways, Pedri, please submit your predictions for match day 2025. Match day 25 of the Premier League. We started those predictions in the morning. We went through all the games, starting from tonight's game between Leeds and Nottingham Forest, and then all the Saturday games. And we are only left with 2 games. That's a game between Brighton and Hove Albion against Crystal Palace on Super Sunday at 5 p.m. and as well as a game between Manchester City playing away to Liverpool at 7:30 p.m. East African time. They are in the Premier League. Speaking of the Premier League, tonight, like I said, there's a game between Leeds United and Nottingham Forest at 11 p.m. East African time. So do not miss out on that fixture should you be interested in watching that game. Then tomorrow, Saturday, the 7th of February 2026, Manchester United will be up against Tottenham Hotspur in the early kickoff at 3:30 p.m., while we will witness as many as 6 as many as 5 games, kicking off at 6 p.m. when Arsenal host Sunderland, Bournemouth play at home against Aston Villa, while Burnley take on West Ham United. Everton make the trip to Craven Cottage to play Fulham, while Chelsea will be away to Wolverhampton Wanderers. And then in the late kickoff of Saturday at 8:30 p.m., Newcastle will take on Brentford. And then on Super Sunday are the fixtures that I just enlisted for you, including Brighton as well as Liverpool in action there. So we will be digesting those as well. Looks like we are coming to the tail end of the first. Actually, we've come to the halfway mark or half-time point of the game between Al Nassr and Al Ittihad, and that game is still goalless. In the earlier fixtures, Alexander Lacazette scored the only goal that turned out to be the match winner as Nayom SC beat up against Al Riyadh there in the Saudi Pro League, while Al Ettifaq beat up against Damak by 2-0. So Gini Wijnaldum among the goal scorers are there, as well as Ali on the score sheet for those 2 games. Very, very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff there. Excuse me, from the Saudi Pro League. Then quickly, back to the Premier League conversation. Okay. Oh, I thought I'd missed a comment. Back to the Premier League conversation. Like I told you, Crystal Palace take on Brighton. Crystal Palace, I think, are winless in what? In about 12 or I think in about 13 fixtures across all competitions, and they've really, really struggled for form. And have since, we're talking about a Crystal Palace side who at one point were 4th on the Premier League table, but have since slipped to as low as 15th, even though they remain, I think, about 9 points above the relegation zone. When you look at their last 5 Premier League results, they've lost 3 games against Newcastle, against Sunderland, against Chelsea. Really, they've made only 2 draws against Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest. Now, in comparison, Brighton have not performing any better or much better because they have 3 draws and 1 win in the last 5, including a loss to Fulham by 2-1, while their last result was a 1-1 draw against Everton. Now, we are talking about a Crystal Palace side who twice in this recently concluded transfer window of January broke their transfer record twice in signing Brennan Johnson from Tottenham Hotspur, as well as Jürgen Strand-Larsen from Wolverhampton Wanderers to try and bluster their attack, while they missed out on some resources when Jean-Philippe Mateta's proposed move to AC Milan fell through because he has a knee issue that could require surgery. Not could, but requires surgery. However, the club and the player are yet to make a decision on that matter because he does want to play or to be part of France's World Cup squad. And he would have sought to perhaps prove to Didier Deschamps that the March international break would be a key moment for him to prove himself. Otherwise, he's been very, very off form this campaign. So Brennan Johnson did come. Of course, Adam Wharton sat out his game when they played up against who was it over the weekend? That draw for Crystal Palace against Nottingham Forest. That 1-1 draw. So because he got a red card in that game against Chelsea, Adam Wharton had received a red card in that particular fixture, so he was suspended for the trip to Nottingham Forest. They do, both sides have a couple of injuries, including Eddie Nketiah for Crystal Palace, Justin Diven, Cheki Diakore, Jean-Philippe Mateta with the knee, and I do not expect that he would start this game, given that he tried to force a move away from Crystal Palace in January, as well as Caleb Cooper there. On the side of Brighton and Hove Albion, Yassine Ayari has a shoulder injury. Jack Heshelwood has been out. Matt Wolfie, Solly Match has been out for a very extended period with a knee injury. Adam Webster, as well as Stefanos Zimas, yes, Stefanos Zimas, yes, are the players that are absent there for Brighton. Now, whereas one would think that this presents itself as a good opportunity for Crystal Palace to return to winning ways. This game earlier on in the season ended in a goalless draw, while Crystal Palace won the game home and away last season by 2-1 and 3-1 respectively. We're talking about a Brighton and Hove Albion side who have blown hot and cold in as far as this particular season is concerned. Now, if there's any team that Brighton struggle to beat up against and have beaten up against, I think only about twice in as many as the last possibly 10 Premier League meetings, then clearly, even though Crystal Palace continued to struggle for form, following that sort of recruitment that they did in January, the idea that Oliver Glasner would want to sign out on a high note, perhaps with Crystal Palace finishing in a very respectful position on the Premier League table, is what you think could compel or could motivate Crystal Palace to, have a better performance. They still are involved in the UEFA Conference League, while they have since been knocked out of all the other domestic cup competitions. That's the FA, I think, by Macclesfield Town, as well as being knocked out of the EFL Cup, for which we already know is headed for the final, with Arsenal booking a date against Manchester City at Wembley on March 22nd, Sunday, 2026. So when you look at the last 5 fixtures between the two sides, Brighton has only won this tie about once. They've been 2 draws and 3 victories, and 2 wins for Crystal Palace. Now, like I said, Crystal Palace have really, really struggled for form in recent weeks. But as you know, there comes a point in time in every team's life when they suffer their blip, but you always feel that their sort of return is around the corner. So expect to see perhaps Adam Wharton returning in that team. Expect to see, instead of Jeremy Pino leading the line, expect to see Jürgen Strand-Larsen. Maybe Jeremy Pino could start on the bench or could start ahead of Brennan Johnson alongside Ismail Sarr, the Senegalese international, then Daniel Munoz, Tyre Mitchell, Lacroix. There's a way they pronounce that name in French. Oh, I'm forgetting. Then Christian Richards, Dean Henderson in goal. Very, very interesting stuff there. So I do give Crystal Palace an upper hand, even though they will be away from home. And this is because of how they behaved against Brighton over the years. Whereas it may not be the entirety of the basis for judgment, Brighton themselves have blown hot and cold in recent weeks or this season entirely. Fabian Hatzler has not had it his way, perhaps as he would have hoped. They do have players like Pascal Gropp, who scored, I think, in that last fixture, scoring the equalizer. Danny Welbeck, 8 goals to his name already this season. Kaoru Mitoma is failing to add numbers to his game in terms of goals and assists. Yassine Ayari, we know he could be absent, but Carlos Baliba will be present. Van Hecke, yes. Van Hecke, Kadioglu, Dikupia, Lewis Dunk, Verbruggen in goal. Yeah, very, very strong side, but I think I'm going to go. This could be a draw, but I'm going to go for Crystal Palace to win 2-1. Crystal Palace to return to winning ways by winning this game by 2-1. So that's my prediction for that game between Crystal Palace and Brighton and Hove Albion. Moving on, of course, is the biggest game of the weekend in the Premier League when Liverpool entertain Manchester City. At one point, Pep Guardiola said they are playing against the champions and reminded Arsenal fans and perhaps Arsenal in general that yes, they are not yet champions. Liverpool are the champions, and he couldn't have been more spot on. I don't know if he meant it for a dig, but it is a statement of fact, because I know some people have a knack for picking offense from what other people say, regardless of context or regardless of its factuality, Excuse me. So we know we know for a fact that, like I said in the morning, that Manchester United are the most unformed team in as far as the Premier League is concerned, because they are the only team to have won their last three Premier League fixtures. And when you go back to as many as the last seven, they've won four and drawn only three. So they are the most informed team in the Premier League, at least by the measure of the last three fixtures. Pep Guardiola knows one too well because of the fact that he struggles in his visits to Anfield. And I do not seem to remember the last time he went to Anfield and won a game of football. Last season, he lost to Liverpool, home and away, 3-0 and 2-0, respectively. That's away from home and at home. That's for Liverpool. Then when you wind things further back, a season prior to that, you'll find a 2-0 victory for Liverpool at Anfield. Then you'll find, earlier on this season, earlier on this season, Man City beat Liverpool by 3-0. You know, you remember that obliteration. I think brought Erling Haaland was among the goal scorers, as well as Nico Gonzalez and Jeremy Doku. While last season, Liverpool tormented Man City, beating them home and away by 2-0 in either fixtures. Then when you go back to the 2023-2024 campaign, that's when you will find a 1-1 draw between Liverpool and Man City, home and away for that particular campaign. I do think that, first of all, John Stones and Ruben Dias have returned to training for Manchester City. Of course, Mark Gahey is available. Nathan Ake is available. Kushanov is available. Max Alenya is available. Matas Nunes for right back. Nico O'Reilly at left back. Ryan Atunori is also available. Had a good game against Newcastle. Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal for Man City. Even though James Trafford seemed to send signals to Pep Guardiola in their 3-1 victory against Newcastle that he can be quite a definite goalkeeper. Then you look at Man City's midfield. Again, of course, Nico Gonzalez, Rodrigo Cascante, Hernandez, Bernardo Silva, all these are players available for Pep Guardiola's selection. Phil Foden, Ryan Cherki. I do not know how he will set them up, but you do expect Brad Erling Haaland, who was rested in midweek and came on as a second substitute in their victory against Newcastle, that he could start this particular game. You know, and then Jeremy Doku on one side, and perhaps Ryan Cherki on the other, if you want to accommodate Bernardo Silva or Phil Foden in that midfield. For me, I would go with Tijan Reinders alongside Rodrigo Cascante in that sort of midfield trio. And then ahead of them, I'd go with Phil Foden or Bernardo Silva. Any of those two. Excuse me, guys. I'm yawning because I'm just tired. There's that feeling of exhaustion, even though it's only 33 minutes past the hour of 9 p.m. East African time. 31 minutes, depending. Okay. Liverpool on the other side, we know one of those teams that have really, really struggled. For Man City, we know they've lost only one in their last 5. They've drawn 3 and 1-1 against Wolverhampton Wanderers by 2-0. It's the kind of scoreline for the reverse of which they lost to Man United. Then most recently a 2-2 draw against Tottenham Hotspur coming from 2 goals down to restore parity in that one. And it was for the first time in about 155 games that Man City led with a 2-0 lead at halftime and did not win that game. So on the other side, Liverpool have had draws against Fulham, against Arsenal, against Burnley, and they lost against FC Bournemouth by 3-2. While in the last Premier League outing, they managed to beat Newcastle by 4-1 in quite such a convincing manner, or such convincing fashion there. So according to Anna Slot, Joe Gomez could be involved in Liverpool's meeting with Man City on Sunday, but Jeremy Frimpong has been ruled out. He remains on the sidelines. That's according to manager Anna Slot, in as far as this weekend is concerned. Speaking of players, we know that Hugo Ekitike is in great shape. He has a tally of 10 Premier League goals. Fran Witz, I think, voted January Player of the Month. Cody Gakpo, still a good player in there, alongside Mohamed Salah, Ryan Gravenberch, and McAllister. I think Alexis McAllister has really, really struggled in this one with all the injuries that Liverpool have had at right back, in the absence of Conor Bradley and recently Jeremy Frimpong, you do expect that it could be Dominic Szoboszlai that starts at right back with Milos Kakis at left back, Virgil van Dijk alongside Ibrahim Konate with Alson Ramsey-Pekka in goal. So there's that sort of expectation, but Pep Guardiola knows one too well. One, what is at stake for him. Two, the reputation of Liverpool at Anfield. I do not think any of us can underestimate it. For those of you that do remember, I think this was late August when Arsenal made the trip to Anfield and went there and lost by a goal to nil, thanks to that wilder of a free kick by Dominic Szoboszlai. So the threat of Dominic Szoboszlai in set pieces, especially when it comes to free kicks across, in and near the 18-yard box. I think this season he's already scored about 3 or 4 of direct free kicks. We've seen that in the UEFA Champions League. We've seen it elsewhere. So he's a player to watch on the side of Man City when you're assessing Liverpool. Hugo Ekitike is one of those players that you do not ought to get your eyes off of. We know that Mohamed Salah likes to torment Man City, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see how they behave. Maybe some other key facts pertaining or pursuant to this match is that Liverpool have lost just one of their last 22 Premier League home games against Manchester City, winning 14 and drawing 7. So with the defeat coming the only time they hosted them as a reigning champion, losing by 4-1. That was in February 2021, when that battle between Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola still raged on. Then, following the 3-0 win at the Etihad in November, Manchester City are looking to complete their first league double over Liverpool since the 1936-1937 season, which was also the last time they won a consecutive league games against them. So those are some of the key statistics that I could want to bring to your fold, but also that the fact that only Liverpool and Man United have won more away games against our reigning Premier League champions than Manchester City at 6. The Citizens are winning 5 of their last 6 visits. So, guys, like I said, it's not going to be an easy game, but for me, I went for a 1-1 draw between the two sides to cancel each other out, even though Man City will have known whatever the result would have come out of the game between Arsenal and Sunderland. If Arsenal win, they extend their points tally to 9 in terms of a point difference between them and a second-place Man City. If Aston Villa go away at the Vitality Stadium and beat up against Bournemouth, that would imply that if the Aston Villa go away to Bournemouth and get beat, that means that Arsenal could easily open a 10 points gap between them and Aston Villa, should Arsenal be able to capitalize on the moment and beat up against Sunderland. Remember, Aston Villa away to Bournemouth and Sunderland at home to the Arsenal. Those games will kick off at the same time at 6 p.m. East African time, in as far as the weekend is concerned. So anyways, that's the update from the Premier League that I thought you guys should know in as far as things go. Okay. Really? We are back for the second half for the game between Al Nassr and Al Ittihad. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyways, so we will also be revisiting what the fixtures will be elsewhere around Europe. But guys, I've only done a Premier League preview for only 2 games. Reason being, we did a preview in the morning for all the other games, like I told you. So maybe the one thing I had not done is take note of my personal predictions so that when I come back here on Monday, I'm able, or even on Sunday night, but possibly Monday, I can be able to, frankly, tell you what the results will be. Brighton, I went for a loss. That's Crystal Palace to win 2-1, while Liverpool have gone for a 1-1 draw. against between them and Man City. So those are my predictions. Unfortunately, Pedri seemed to have taken a French leave, and therefore we cannot ask him what his predictions are. I don't know if he's chickened out of this weekend, but yeah, we will have to soldier on regardless. In the other, elsewhere in Europe, in the Spanish La Liga, of course, we do have action already set to take place at about 11 p.m. East African time, when Celta Vigo take on Osasuna, just as much as Leeds will be up against Nottingham Forest. In the German Bundesliga, at 10:30 p.m., Union Berlin will be up against Eintracht Frankfurt, while at 11:15 p.m., Hellas Verona will be up against Pisa in the Italian Serie A. In the French League One, at 11:15 p.m., Metz will take on Lille there in that action. And then moving on Sunday, in as far as the Spanish La Liga is concerned, Rayo Vallecano will be up against Rayo Oviedo. Barcelona at 6:15 p.m. on Saturday will take on Mallorca. Sevilla will be up against Girona, while Real Sociedad will take on Elche. In the German Bundesliga, Heidenheim take on Hamburg SV. Freiburg take on Werder Bremen. Mainz 05 take on Augsburg. St. Pauli take on VfB Stuttgart, while Wolfsburg take on Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Mönchengladbach take on Bayer Leverkusen. That's in the German Bundesliga on Saturday. In the Italian Serie A, there will be only 2 games on Saturday when Genoa take on Napoli. Fiorentina will be up against Torino, while in the French League One, we'll have only 3 games on Saturday when Stade Rennes take on Lens, while Brest will be at home against Lorient. Nantes will be up against Lyon. That's what you should be expecting from that side. Moving on to Super Sunday. Oh, that's blood and foul. You can't be complaining about that. I can see George Jesus is on the touchline for Al Nassr. The head coach, I think he was at Al Hilal. Then when he parted ways with Al Hilal and they brought Simon Inzaghi, he came to Al Nassr. Anyways, on Super Sunday, in the Spanish La Liga, Deportivo Alaves will be up against Getafe. Athletic Bilbao will be up against Levante. These ones recently advanced to the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey. So did Atletico de Madrid when they beat up against Real Betis by 5-0 in the fixture there. So Atletico de Madrid will be up against Real Betis at 8:30 p.m. Very interesting game to see whether Atletico Madrid can beat up against Real Betis in 2 consecutive games in 2 different competitions. Like I told you, on Thursday they were in action in the Copa del Rey quarterfinals, and Atletico de Madrid thrashed Real Betis by 5-0. And then in the late kickoff on Sunday, Real Madrid will be away to Valencia. In years gone by, this would have been a very, very interesting high goal scoring fixture, but the fall of Valencia, in similarity to that of Sevilla, has not left them in a great position in as far as being that daunting side to Real Madrid and Barcelona is concerned as per that fixture. So I do not miss out on all that action that will be coming your way. Fabinho getting himself in the referee's book here. Really, he is wearing the armband for Al Ittihad. Seemed to clash with Joao Felix. It was a very accidental elbow. It was a bit of an accidental elbow. But yeah, it is what it is. So do not miss out on all that. That will be coming your way in as far as the weekend is concerned. Okay. Then Chelsea's manager Chelsea manager Liam Rafinha has been in the media complaining about Arsenal, how they invaded Chelsea in their own half during the warm-up at the Emirates Stadium prior to the kickoff of their game against Chelsea. Oh, now Mikel Arteta was speaking about the situation, and he said uh, it seems during the warm up sometimes long balls get played and they go over the other half. And I think one of the Arsenal coaches had gone to retrieve that ball, but Liam Rafinha mistook that for some form of disrespect, that Arsenal were trying to antagonize even their warm-up, which, I mean, whereas it can be true, it is also true that it could have been an accidentally high kick or long kick that ended up in in Chelsea's half, where they were doing their warm-ups, Sergio Conceição is here sipping water faster, like his life depends on it. Anyways, so we will leave that at that. Okay. Guys, anyways, why don't we wrap it up here? I will do the rest of it in the morning. I will have a revisit on some of those key fixtures. I think United, Tottenham Hotspurs, Arsenal, Sunderland, we'll look at that. Maybe a little bit about Chelsea, Wolverhampton Wanderers. All those fixtures are coming tomorrow. But for now, allow me wrap it up here and wish you a blessed night. Thank you so much, Pedri, for having been part of tonight's broadcast. Thank you for always participating and always choosing to be with us. So it's always a pleasure. Have yourselves a blessed night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at around 10-ish, 10:30 for our weekend preview. To continue with that, stay blessed. Bye-bye for now.